classic couplet looking at this, but we certainly see very strong winds, easily 60 to 70 miles per hour. Sam or Eric, I don't know if you guys are mic'd up or anything. You are? Okay. What are we seeing? Anything from the Weather Service as far as, I'm assuming this was Doppler indicated. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was live on the air doing this, so I haven't had a chance to see.
Yeah, this is radar indicated, Jason. They haven't given us any super new updates since you went on air with the tornado. We don't have any confirmed tornado on the ground at this time. Couple of spotters out there trying to see what's going on, but as of right now, we are still radar indicated.
All right, very good. And again, we've been watching this storm as it came through Lorain County, kind of made its way through Medina County, southern Cuyahoga County, and it wasn't really spinning all that much. There were strong winds with it. So apparently, you know, I think the reason this warning was issued is because we went and looked at that debris tracker, and we had a couple of scans there where this thing was near Cuyahoga Falls, where we had a little debris there potentially, and then you had a little bit of spin there too. A lot of times, again, issuing and analyzing tornadoes here in northern Ohio, very difficult. It's not like out in Tornado Alley where, you know, basically they're right out of a textbook. The challenge here is a little bit different for us here in interpreting this data. Let's go ahead and give you the latest timing here. We're coming up on 9 minutes after 6 o'clock. This warning goes until 6:45. So here's the latest. Let's go ahead and bring it on in. There's Brimfield 6:14, Rootstown here at 6:26, Atwater at 6:38, Canyon Park. That's a new one for me, 6:55. As this moves off to the south and east, hey, they've trimmed some of the counties here, I believe. Let's get the latest there. Are we just Portage right now? Portage and Summit, or Eastern Summit potentially here still as well. Let's click on that. Let's see if we have an update here from the Weather Service, because they're going to most likely allow Summit to expire here relatively quickly. Now we still have that. Okay, Portage, Stark, and Summit until 6:45, but a lot of the worst weather here is moving out of Summit County here into Portage and eventually here into northern Stark County too. But this is really a Portage warning here. If we could just have that one up there a little bit more where we have our warning information, because the bug is blocking it. But you can see what's happening here with this storm. We've got some strong winds inside. Let's go ahead and zoom in and get a better look at these winds inside the storm here if we could, and just see if we have any more rotation out there. We're getting a little bit of it right around the Brimfield area. Remember, when you see this so zoomed in, the bright reds or the pink color indicates winds moving very rapidly away from the radar. This is 76. So we just talked about this. Hate seeing that between Talmadge and Brimfield. Yikes. We are looking at very strong winds in excess of 50, 60 miles per hour. They've dropped a little bit, but then we've got this green around the Brimfield area. So we may just have a little bit of spin and we get this flow into this storm from this general direction. So what basically it's telling us is the storm is wrapping up a little bit. And this has been the signature here since we came on the air with this thing. We were already on the air. Then it turned and blinked that red color. And I go, oh, we've got something here. We were looking inside the storm for those strong winds. We were detecting that. And basically what happened here is we had that notification or that signature from our debris tracker, the correlation coefficient product that shows you where you might have debris. And then that kind of, basically showed right over Cuyahoga Falls of that potential rotation here. So this is about to cross 43. The good news is that we get a speed on this, Sam, moving pretty quick, right?
Yeah, so currently the storm is moving east at about 30 miles per hour. So like to see that so it could get out of there a little bit more quickly. I did just get a message from a friend who said outdoor warning sirens or tornado sirens are currently going off in Hudson. If you're in Hudson and you're hearing that and you're, thinking, should I seek shelter? You're in the clear in Hudson. The threat is to your south. So if you hear that siren going off, the threat is south of you. That's
a really good point, because sometimes, these county warning systems are really good. But if the county's under a warning, these cities will get the siren going. And sometimes with the way these polygons are drawn, parts of the county could be under the warning, not the entire county. So great news there for not great news, but good news for Hudson, that while the sirens are going off, no need to take shelter. Again, these warnings are not just for the entire counties, they are for parts of the county. They're the polygons, so that's why they're a little bit more precise. So just to recap here where we are, 6:45. So we have another half an hour or so on this storm. It's a nasty storm, and I'll tell you what, unfortunately, this is not the only thing we have to worry about tonight. We've got another big line coming in from the west, most likely here after 7 or 8 p.m. tonight. That's going to come through with showers and thunderstorms later on this evening. So the tornado warning is until 6:45. There's Randolph, there's Lexington. Here's your ETAs. Randolph 623. We've got Atwater 632, Lexington 641. Now, obviously, there are towns and villages in between here, but those are the ones that First Alert Doppler is picking up in the storm's path. If you're in the path of this storm, Randolph, we've given you a pretty good heads up. If you live within 5 minutes of Randolph, north, south, east, or west, the time is now to get to your safe spot. Get down to the lowest point of your home. If you don't have a basement, get to an interior room, a closet, a bathroom. And one of the most important things to do, obviously get away from windows, is cover your head the best you can. Sometimes you can do that by getting under something sturdy. Sometimes people put helmets on, just to be safe. If you have one of those around that fits, that's not a bad idea too, because things can fly around, certainly. And again, as I mentioned, away from windows. And you look at the reflectivity here, which is just our radar. We really don't see too much. We have a little notch there. See that notch just south of Brimfield? That's where we could have, if we do have a tornado, a little spinning right there. We've kind of lost the hail largely on this storm as it's moved now out of downtown Akron, but you can certainly see where we've got that spin. Where that arrow was is likely where, if we do have a tornado on the ground, likely where that tornado is currently at. So Brimfield right along I-76 between Palmyra and Brimfield. This is not good for any travel. If you have family or friends that are going to be on 76, maybe shoot them a text and say, or give them a call and say, hey, maybe pull over, let this thing pass, because it's moving 30, 35 miles an hour. So this thing's going to be gone pretty quickly. But any travel on I-76 between Brimfield and basically Palmyra or Route 14 could get a little funky here. Now this cell is moving, east, but it's moving a little south of east as well. And as it does that, it does turn a little bit. It encounters a little bit better air up here. Newest ETA, we like to do this if we can. Rootstown here, 625, Atwater, 637, Berlin Center here closer to 7 o'clock as this cell continues to shift off to the south and to the east. This track, takes it basically right just south of Interstate 76. So Craig Beach, I think you guys will be okay from this, but sometimes these storms can wobble a little bit. Thankfully, the good news is for Cuyahoga Falls, for downtown Akron, you guys are fine now. In fact, I would imagine the sun's going to come out here at Blossom very soon, and hopefully we didn't have any damage there from that. But you can see where that notch is. That's where we likely have that rotation. That's where we likely have, if we have a tornado on the ground, that's where we have it. Again, when you look at the spin inside this storm, it's nothing that jumps out right away, but what we do certainly have with this cell, very strong wind. So there's the Brimfield area. See, this is looking a little less impressive as far as the very strong wind. So there's a look. This is 43, Route 43, south of Kent. That comes right down. You can see very high winds there right along 43. And that's going to cross over 44 here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So if you live in Rootstown, basically north or south of Rootstown along 44, the time has come for you to get to your safe spot as well, because this thing means business. And even if it's not dropping a tornado down, and we don't have any evidence from ground truth yet that it is, we have, though, I will say, this cell was producing some funnels off to the west earlier today. But even if we don't have that ground truth, again, better to be safe than sorry. Get to your safe spot. Wait until the storm passes. If you have to, crank up the audio. We're streaming our coverage as well. That's why we always say to have your devices charged up, because even if you lose power and you lose the ability to watch us on television, or your satellite maybe goes out due to heavy rain, we're always streaming our coverage as well. Again, the goal is to always be there for you, regardless of where you're going to get the information here. So right there, that's a great idea. Circle that area. That's likely where we have, again, a little bit of that inflow of air coming into this cell, and then we've got the winds going in the other direction, crossing on 43. So right there, there's that bullseye between 44 and 43, between Brimfield and Rootstown. That's where we likely have that tornado. It's certainly an area of concern. Let's switch back real quick, if we could, to our correlation to see if we have anything there as far as anything. Okay, you see that? Again, this is telling us that there might be some stuff on the ground here flying around. And again, it's the same general area. You can see how it really lights up there. We don't want to pay attention too much to that. That could be a little dust at the leading edge of this stuff. But you want to look in the storm itself, and right there, between 43 and 44, that's where we have the concern. And by the way, I would suspect, although I don't have a direct line to the Weather Service here, that they issued this warning based on a couple of scans that we had in and around the Cuyahoga Falls area a little bit after 6 o'clock. Now, this warning was issued a little bit after 6, 1, 2 after 6 o'clock in Cuyahoga Falls. In about 20 minutes, it's traveled all the way now down into the Brimfield area and eventually here into the Atwater area as well. Crossing over right now, 44. We've got that warning until 6:45 for Summit, Stark, and Portage counties. Now, Summit's threat is really diminishing very quickly. They'll probably allow that to expire momentarily when they reissue this warning from the National Weather Service. Sam, seeing anything else with this? Anything from the chat as far as observations or anything that we can add here from getting from the Weather Service?
Yeah, nothing coming in now. We haven't heard anything from them at this hour. They're just continuing the tornado warning. Again, still radar indicated. No one has reported a tornado. Have a couple of people online asking, am I okay in Streetsboro? And yet, kind of similar to Hudson, you're to the north of this. So if you're in Ravenna or even farther north, the tornado warned portion of the storm is to your south. So you'd be in the clear there in Streetsboro and Ravenna.
Yeah, good information there, Sam. Thank you. And, you know, we are covering this on the radar. We have our observations out there as well to see if we actually have anything here. But also, Jeff Slauson, our digital anchor, is standing by. Jeff, I've been seeing you guys over there looking at pictures. And again, we want to urge folks not to jump outside of their house and take pictures or video of this thing, because first and foremost, it's likely wrapped with rain if it is anything. And secondly, it's really dangerous. What do you got?
Yeah, this is showing from quite a bit off. Now, this was submitted to us a little bit ago. This is actually Huron, but I do want to show it regardless. You're going to see on this corner as it peers around here, that cyclone just kind of starting right there. You can kind of see it peeking out. And heading down toward the ground there. There's a couple of photos in addition to that as well. I do want to also really quickly get to power outages. Now that you've seen this video here, they started to go down and then have increased, Jason, in the areas that you've been talking about, most notably in the Akron area. We were hovering at about 20 customers affected. I know it's tough to see. I'll just zoom in really quickly. We're now at 171 customers affected, so we've seen that jump up probably in the last 2 to 3 minutes or so. That is a fairly significant increase. And we always talk about these outages, customers. That's not individual people, that is customers. One home could potentially have 2 or 3, but that is the total that we are seeing right now, 171 in the Akron area. That has jumped up significantly over the last couple of minutes, I would say. Jason, yeah, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. I don't know if you got me right now. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Okay, we are, again, on the air for this tornado warning. Control room, if we can go over to our green screen, flip Jeff's camera around, we could present the information from there as well. But there is a look at why we're on the air currently. 6:45 tornado warning in effect. That's for Portage, Stark, and Summit County, and also for Mahoning County. That warning was issued roughly 15-20 minutes ago, a little bit after 6 o'clock, and that is the latest. Atwater, 6:35, Lexington, 6:45, on into Smith then at 6:53, and then Naylor a little bit after 7 o'clock. So again, when we talk about this tornado warning, it's issued due to Doppler radar indication. We have yet to have, though we're listening for it, that ground confirmation of this storm. So that's the track right there. And when you look at this, you've got a lot of rain. We had a little notch in it earlier, and that notch has almost disappeared a little bit, but you can see the general area here, most likely heading right towards the Atwater area. So if you're in Atwater, the time has come and gone. You only have about another 5 minutes until you have to get to your safe spot. And again, always take, get to the lowest point of your home and put as many walls between you and the storm as possible. Here's a look at I-76, Talmadge Road, and you can see heavy rain there. Folks traveling, that's real close to where this warning is. We talked about how, tornado warnings are bad anywhere, but when you talk about 5, 6 p.m. and crossing an interstate, that's where you have some real problems because folks are maybe driving through. They don't have the same weather apps that you do at your house. They're just going from point A to point B. and they don't know. And there's no signs out there. The cops aren't telling them anything. So it can be really, really tricky. And in addition to the potential for a tornado, also heavy torrential rains. And we've done stories on that too, where highways can be closed, or at least some roads can be closed as well. I want to bring in meteorologist Erica Page right now. Erica has been looking at this storm, kind of manipulating the radar for me. Erica, what are we seeing right now from a meteorological standpoint? Erica spent years out in Tornado Alley, not only chasing tornadoes, but also analyzing radar signatures of where tornadoes may be. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I would say overall, you know, the rotation within this storm, and I'll actually bring up our velocity because I think it does paint a decent picture with when you're talking about the reds meeting up with the greens. This is generally where you're going to see that better opportunity for rotation. Right now, the fact that you see it so elongated, basically from the Brimfield area almost down towards Atwater, that gives me a pretty good indication that this is likely pretty broad rotation at this point. Certainly when you look at what we call reflectivity, or just that standard radar look, you do have a little bit of that tail right down there. So likely if you're going to have the more organized rotation within that storm, it's likely just getting ready to cross State Route 44. I would say though, for the most part, the radar just overall picture has looked a little less impressive than when this storm was moving through parts of Summit County. But as you just showed with the ODOT camera, there's a lot of heavy rainfall with this. You stepped outside earlier today. You felt all of that humidity. All of that is being turned into a better opportunity for rain. And so one thing that we will have to watch, especially if you get a couple rounds of this activity moving through, is that we're going to likely have some ponding issues that are on the roads. Okay, meteorologist Sam Roberts kind of filling us in here too. The tornado warning has now officially been trimmed back from Summit County. So this is now just an issue for the southern portions there. You can see of Portage County, the northeastern corner there of Stark County, and then that far western little corner and sliver there of Trumbull County. So again, this is still moving off towards the east, about 30 miles per hour. We can put a track on this. Generally speaking, I would still keep all of your tornado precautions in play just because there is some rotation still noted, even if the rotation isn't as strong. You also have to remember that this is a lot farther away from the radar, so our scans, when you're looking inside this storm, are going to be a little bit more elevated. So you're not necessarily seeing what's happening closer to the base of the clouds. You're probably looking a little higher up into the storm, so that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at a lot of these radar presentations.
Yeah, great information there, Eric. And again, Erica is an experienced storm chaser and also an experienced storm tracker, and always appreciate her analysis as well. So they waited a long time to take Summit out of this warning, probably a little too long, but that's fine. Again, better to be safe than sorry. So now this is only a Portage, Stark, and Mahoning County storm. And as Erica mentioned, a couple of challenges here. This storm is racing 30, 35 miles an hour away from the Cleveland radar. So the data, the beam is shooting higher up into the sky. It's harder to get that concrete data closer to the ground. But again, it's still in pretty good shape here. Eventually, they'll have to switch to the Pittsburgh radar to analyze this thing. But there's a look at it. And as Erica also mentioned, the signature here isn't as strong as it was when it was first issued. A lot of times that happens in Northern Ohio. We get a scan 2-3 times, a few minutes, looks pretty rough, and then all of a sudden it really diminishes, and that can sometimes happen. It's very rare that we have long track. It can happen, but it's very rare that we have long track tornadoes in Northern Ohio. So this is the latest, again, until 6:45. So we have a little less than 20 minutes on this storm. Randolph, we've been talking about for quite some time. It's basically now on your doorstep in Randolph. You have to be in your safe spot right now, or you risk this thing possibly dropping down and causing some damage and taking off some roofs or throwing stuff through windows. That can happen. Atwater, 6:35. You got a few moments. Lexington, 6:45. On into Smith, Salem, 6:52 and 7:12. Let's zoom in a little bit on this cell so we can really take a look here where we might still have a notch or not. There you have it, right around the Randolph area. We'll do some street level mapping here too. There's Atwater. You can see Atwater there is 224. right there is 44. So 44 and 224, right there, just north of 224. If we have something on the ground, it's likely right there. This is about to cross 224. So as I mentioned, if you're in the Atwater area, get to your safe spot. Again, it doesn't get any more serious than this when we've got a possible tornado here going through a relatively populated area. Sometimes we track tornado warnings and they're basically going through fields, but in this particular case, we've got 224. That's a major road, and we've got a pretty good signature hanging on. You know, this storm is hanging on a little bit longer than I expected. So this is 44 down to the Randolph area. Very strong winds on the north and west side of Randolph here, moving away from our Hopkins radar, and then we have that switch where it goes from green or from red to green. That's your couplet. Is it tight? Is it classic? No. Eric called it a little bit more widespread or diffuse, and I would agree with that. So a broad rotation is what we're dealing with right now. But you take this seriously, treat it as a tornado because it's about to cross 224 as we speak. The next scan, it will jump. There it goes, closer to 224, and that is continuing its southeastern progression. Randolph, you're getting pounded right now with very strong winds out of the north. If you live north and also off to the east of Randolph, about a mile or two, that's where we're likely getting that rotation near ground level. So we're waiting on confirmation. You know, we've got a lot of folks that live out there. We've got law enforcement as well. They'll let us know if anything's sighted, but at this point it is just Doppler radar indicated. That's typically the warnings that we get. And what will happen is if there's any damage out there from this storm, the Weather Service will go out tomorrow or the next day, depending on how busy they are from today and tonight, and then analyze what happened, if anything happened. So Atwater, you guys are up next. Again, this is going to cross over 224 as we speak and then make its way here a little bit farther off to the east. So Summit, you guys are no longer under this warning. This is for Stark, Portage, and you know, we are on some cable systems here in Youngstown in Mahoning, and they might get us over the air too. So while Mahoning is not in our TV viewing market, we still treat it with information because folks out here do get us. We want to make sure they have the info. Youngstown has its own TV stations, but I know a lot of folks in Mahoning County watch us. So Mahoning County, you're just basically south of Youngstown here with this storm in the next 20 minutes. Atwater 636. And then on into Ellsworth a little bit after 7 o'clock. Canfield, that's just south of Youngstown there at about 7:15. The warning itself goes until 6:45. Remember, severe weather is our #1 priority here at this TV station, and we're going to let you know about a tornado warning on the ground, and we will stay on until the warning has expired or we see enough from a meteorological standpoint or from a radar analysis standpoint to sound the all clear. I certainly do not see enough at this point at all, and this warning goes until 6:45. Based on this signature, this warning may be extended. I'm sure the Weather Service right now is thinking about it, and at that point, that would be for Mahoning County and down basically towards potentially Columbiana County, there down to the south. As it moves off to the south and to the east. Pretty small warning at this point, and you look at this is our reflectivity product, which is basically just the rain, and you see this, and you know that's not something that would be in a textbook as far as a tornado warning whatsoever, but when you look inside this storm, when you look at the history of this storm with our debris tracker in and around Cuyahoga Falls, you see why the Weather Service kind of pulled the trigger on this warning a little bit after 6 p.m. We've been live on the air since this warning was issued. And remember, what is today? It's a 19 First Alert Weather Day. We're the only ones that issue 19 First Alert Weather Days, and we issued this a couple days ago based on the data that we were seeing for this afternoon and for tonight. And we've been all over that. We extended the alert into the afternoon, and really the bulk of the storms that we're mostly concerned about, I hate to say this, are still probably a couple of hours away in western Ohio. So this has the potential to be a little bit of a busy night for us here starting early. So tornado warning until 6:45. There you have it for this cell right now near the Atwater area. If you're in Atwater, it's right on your doorstep right now. Palmyra, okay, I-76, you guys are all right. You're going to get some rain, you're going to get some wind, maybe a little bit of hail. But the worst of this storm, where the tornado likely is right now very near Atwater. So if you're in Atwater, get to your safe spot, turn up the audio. We're streaming our coverage as well. We try to be everywhere where you might consume the information, not just TV. We get it. Here's 224 moving towards the Atwater area, and right there, just along 224, about to cross over. In fact, it probably already has, moving off to the south and east. There is that spin just off to the west of Atwater. It's still there. It's still there. Is it impressive? I've seen certainly worse, obviously, here in northern Ohio that have produced tornadoes. I've also seen a little bit less. So we've got that spin, still pretty strong. Red indicates winds going away from the radar, and then inside the storm, we've got it wrapping around with some wind going towards our Cleveland radar, which is up to the north and west, past that first alert banner. So that's why the Weather Service is allowing this this tornado warning to continue as it marches south and east here through northern Ohio. Brimfield, Suffield, Route 43, even Route 44, you guys are okay. Rootstown's okay. Randolph, about to be okay, but still keep shelter at least for the next few moments until this storm does pass. Because we do have a little bit of spin, enough spin to where this storm could easily, this rotation could get down to ground level and cause some damage, some roof damage, some trees being uprooted. And when trees are flying around, we've done stories on that where it wasn't necessarily a strong tornado, but it rips apart a tree that, then falls into someone's house. So again, we take all tornado warnings very seriously, but when you have something that's kind of rolling through a populated county and populated areas and towns and roads that people drive on, it's kind of that next level of something that would concern us. Here's Ellsworth, by the way. That's in Mahoning County. This thing's roughly about 20 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes from getting into Mahoning County. And, moving at about 30, 40 miles per hour, it's going to get there pretty quick, and it's going to get out of here. But we still have to deal with what's happening right now in Portage County. And we're talking northern Stark. There's Stark County line right there. Boy, it is borderline. If it impacts Stark County, it is like the smallest sliver of Stark County. If you're in Alliance right now, stay tuned, because this storm has been showing signs of sliding a little south. Now, Alliance, you might be too far south. I hope for Alliance, Mount Union, that it is too far south. But right now, it looks like just a track right through southeastern Portage County into Mahoning County, western Mahoning County. Atwater right now, Christietown, 656, Salem, 714. Then, this is basically off at almost western PA at that point, 730 or so. So this was earlier today. This does not surprise me at all. We were tracking this thing in and around the Stowe area. 9 minutes after 6, about 7 minutes after this warning was issued, funnel cloud was observed, pea-sized hail, 40, 45 mile an hour winds just north of Talmadge at Graham and Fish Creek roads. So we were on that, saying the winds were at least 45, 50 miles per hour. We talked about pea-sized hail and the potential for a funnel cloud or a tornado. So that was observed. Now the big question is, you can have a funnel cloud and the radar will show it. But does that funnel drop down? That's why we look at that debris tracker, which is what we were looking at as well. That can tell us a lot of different things. It can tell us where hail is. It can tell us where trees are getting blown around, where some branches are flying around. If it's in a field, it can tell us where some dust is getting thrown into the air. So it's a very, very helpful tool. And I do think the combination of the radar and our debris tracker was the reason they issued this warning. Let's head back into the weather office here and talk to Sam a little bit. Sam, what are we seeing as far as any more information? You just passed that along about the funnel cloud. Anything else to report?
Yeah, so they're talking with us in chat. By they, I mean the National Weather Service. And regarding this ongoing warning near Atwater, they were kind of noting the same things you were talking about, and Erica was mentioning that weakening rotation. I think they're going to continue the warning basically until 6:45, so about another 10 minutes on that. And if they don't see any additional reintensification, then they're going to allow it to expire without extending it into Mahoning County or further into Mahoning County or Columbiana County. So a little good news there. They're also noting that weakening rotation. I do want to mention there's a lot of campgrounds in this area around Atwater Township. So if you know anybody who's down that way, I've got Google Maps pulled up and I'm seeing, Deer Creek Reservoir, and there's a golf club down that way, and other Stark County Park District Reservoir, and just different little areas where people might be spending time outside since it's June now and we all want to be outdoors. So if you know anybody who may be doing that, any recreational activities, let them know, this is still coming through. especially in the Limaville area or down into Lexington, as the storm is currently moving through Atwater. Less than 10 minutes, though, left on that warning.
Yeah, good information there from meteorologist Samantha Roberts. And we'll go back here. There's Lexington, there's Atwater. And again, this is about to, basically, this is the border with Stark County. So again, the very, very northern edge of Stark County is going to be impacted by this before it really is just miles away from the Mahoning County line. This is where we'd get that tornado if it is indeed a tornado, or certainly a funnel cloud, lowering of the clouds, that wall cloud sometimes people like to call it, or at least think that's what they see. That's what's happening right here. Certainly some ominous looking clouds. The good news is Randolph 224 west of Atwater, things are improving. But it's in and around Atwater, and then as I mentioned, down towards the Lexington area. Sam also said Limaville, as this storm slides south and east, moving about 25, 30 miles per hour. So it's chugging along. It's not moving super duper fast, but fast enough to where you don't have to really get to your safe spot and spend too much time, because this storm is moving pretty quickly. But always smart to better be safe than to be sorry. There's a look at it. And again, we still have just this little notch. When you look at radar like this, you see something like this, see how flat and straight that is? What do you see there? That's typically going to be some strong winds. But when you get these notches and maybe even a little bit something out ahead of it, these little inflows, these notches indicate where you might have that spin, or that weak, in this case, most likely fairly weak rotation. But it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to drop down a little EF1 tornado, and you can see right there where you have that notch. Notice how smooth it is up here, and then you get it a little bit of a notch. That's inflow coming in and disrupting this storm. Well, not disrupting it, actually helping it continue to spin and rotate. So this is what's happening down here in far, far southern sections of Portage County. We're really here, almost here at the end of Portage County. This is going to cross over. It may impact a small fraction of Stark County, but again, that's the challenge. That's why these polygons are so helpful. If you're in Canton, the sun's most likely out. By the way, we've been on the phone with sheriff's departments in Portage County. No reports of any damage. That is great news. So again, just because the radar shows what could be a tornado, inside the storm shows what could be a tornado sometimes, and we hope it doesn't drop down, and that would be fine. There's nobody in here wants any damage to anybody, but we want to make sure if you do get impacted by this, we've done enough on it over the years, that you are near a safe spot. Did we just switch that to maybe a different radar there? Things looked a little redder there. But anyway, moving off to the south, and yeah, we are on the Pittsburgh radar now. So this is something Erica was talking about. The farther and farther that this storm gets away from Cleveland, we're going to switch over and get better data from the Pittsburgh radar. It's a little closer, and again, the farther away, things get a little bit more difficult to analyze as well. Smith here in the next 15 minutes. That's in basically southwestern Mahoning here. Salem 712, Washingtonville 721. Tell you what, kudos to the Weather Service. They do a great job. They have a difficult job. They did a great job on this particular warning with the timing of it, because I'll tell you what, it may be out of this polygon that very close to 645. So we're almost ready to sound the all clear. We still have that spin though. There it is. I mean, you can easily see it with the Pittsburgh radar a little bit better. Now, this is the opposite, right? Because we're using the Pittsburgh radar. So we've got these winds blowing toward the Pittsburgh radar there and then blowing away. There's your spin right around the Atwater area. Again, fairly concerning here. Actually, a couple of spins, yeah. Coming in from the Pittsburgh radar. There's the one. Again, moving away, and then the two greens indicate where it's coming towards the Pittsburgh radar. This is eventually going to make its way into Mahoning County. It is still, though, in southern Portage County. So we still have a few more minutes, 4 minutes in fact, a little less than, on this tornado warning for basically Stark, Portage, and it will include Mahoning County in that as well. And as Sam mentioned earlier, I would have expected if we had a stronger signature for the Weather Service to continue this warning. Good news, they haven't. But we've done this so many times to where the warning is allowed to expire, and within 5 minutes we get a scan that doesn't look good, and the warning is reissued. Now this goes to basically goes to our Pittsburgh office here eventually, and they'll make the call on it. you know, we still have enough spin. Erica, chime in if you want. Still have just enough spin on this thing, don't you agree?
Yeah, for a couple scans there within the last 10 minutes or so, I will say it did look a little bit more impressive with the mid-level rotation, but it looks like it's pulsing out, becoming a bit more broad once again. So my guess is the brief little bit of organization that it had likely not going to take hold, at least for now. I think the plan is probably that they're going to end up allowing this to expire, and I think that's what the latest ding that we just heard from our National Weather Service office is basically saying, that they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire here at 6:45.
Well, that's good to hear, you know, because we don't want to be on any longer than we have to. So that's, again, most important thing we do, give you the information and you get to your safe spots, and hopefully you have a plan. And maybe this is one of those things where, hey, we didn't have a plan and now you do. Always have that, especially when we issue 19 first alert weather days. If you need information on what to do if we're under a tornado warning, what's the difference of watch and a warning, we've made that really easy. Go to our website, cleveland19.com, click on weather, and we have a first alert weather guide to, again, safety guide to make sure you have the information to keep you and your family safe. It's not something that we want to panic anybody about, but again, it's just a great idea to have a plan, to know, hey, if we're under a tornado warning, this is what we do. We go to this room, we're able to get the information from a mobile device or the TV, and you know, then get through the storm in a safe way. It's better to be safe, as we know, than to be sorry and to be in your house for any damage or an unsafe spot in your house if you do get damaged by this. So we've got here basically another minute on this tornado warning. So far, they have not reissued it. That is good news. I do want to let folks know here in western Mahoning County to get to your safe spot until this storm passes. Far northeastern sections of Stark County as well, with that little notch there just to the south of Atwater. This is, again, crossing over into Mahoning County. But as Erica mentioned, as we've kind of been following along as well, the rotation on this particular cell is weakened. I want to do a real quick look out, Erica. Anything else, if we can widen that view of the radar to kind of what's next? I know downtown Cleveland's getting pounded right now with heavy rain. It's not severe, but boy, this is pretty rough stuff here into downtown. And then look at what we have out towards Toledo. Current time is about 6:45. This is going to make its way, most likely the islands, close to 8 o'clock. Greater Cleveland between perhaps 9 and 10 p.m. We've had a lot more action out ahead of this than we initially expected. Okay, I do want to let you know that that tornado warning has been allowed to expire for Portage County, Stark County, and Mahoning County. So the tornado warning has expired. We're going to keep watching the cells from the west and let you know if we have to break into programming, because they're all turning severe. Also, don't forget, on Cleveland's 43, here in 15 minutes, we have our 7 o'clock news, followed by our weather show at 7:30, where we're going to give you live tracking of these storms. Nobody else will be on the air at that point unless we're under another tornado warning. So if you want information on the latest of these storms, we will be all over that. And of course, tonight at 10 on Cleveland's 43, and of course on 19 at 11 o'clock as these storms blow through northern Ohio. For meteorologist Erica Page, Samantha Roberts, for digital anchor Jeff Slauson, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Nicholas. We'll send you back to your regular programming.